We're all excited about the new Assassin's Creed game. Lord knows I am. It's set in Egypt. I've been waiting for a good Egyptian game setting in Egypt forever. I can't wait to get it now. And I was expecting it in 2017. However, it looks like Ubisoft is keeping the door open to delay it farther, which actually could be a good thing. We'll get into it. Now, the initial announcement for a delay to the Assassin's Creed series, they typically work on an annual release schedule. The initial announcement of this came early 2016 when Ubisoft said in a blog post, quote, "Since the release of Assassin's Creed Unity, we've learned a lot based on your feedback. We've also updated our development processes and recommitted to making Assassin's Creed a premier open-world franchise. So we're taking this year to evolve the game mechanics and make sure we're delivering on the promise of Assassin's Creed, blah, blah, blah." Now, most people took that as just corporate jargon, or they argued that they were simply coming up with an excuse to let the movie shine, because the movie just came out December 21st. They said, oh, well, clearly Ubisoft didn't want to distract from the movie. I completely disagree. I think if that were an actual reason, then they're incredibly stupid. It would have made more sense to release a game with, like, hey, if you buy the game, you get a free ticket to go see the movie. Or maybe vice versa. You buy, the movie ticket, you bring your ticket stub to GameStop, you trade it in, you get some extra DLC or something. That would be the way to do it. To tie two products together in the holiday season. So clearly that wasn't the reason. I do not buy that for a second. They made this choice for some other reason, and seemingly it was because of consumer demand. Now, rightly so, a lot of people don't trust Ubisoft. They think of Ubisoft as a very anti-consumer company, which they have been in the past, at least in terms of how they treat their employees, for one. Rumors have it that they do not treat their employees well, or at least haven't in the past, especially during crunch time, where they tend to push employees to the absolute brink. Now, I would say that those comments can often be taken out of context, because in general, whenever you're on a deadline for any company, whether it's in movie production or video game production, or even a big company working on a deal or to file your taxes in time, a lot of the time you're in crunch time and you're staying at the office late. You stay there all night. An interview that Todd Howard gave describing the development process of Skyrim, he said that they, right before release, were at the office 24/7 for a good 2 weeks. They left every once in a while. People would swap out and then come back in, and they'd go see their families and stuff. But in general, they had beds set up. They had like masseuses. They had like special catering come in, because they were essentially living there to make it happen. So it sounds like a prison when you're describing it in a negative way, but really that's just part of the job when you're on these hard deadlines. So it's important to take these things in context. So it's not like they're this sort of North Korean imperial fascist company that's like whipping their workers to get the game out in time. It's not quite like that, at least so far as I've been able to find as I've dug into those comments. I don't want to support a company that treats employees like that, so I've dug into it. I haven't found anything particularly atrocious, but that's a side point. Yeah, spend 2 minutes on a side point. But with that said, moving into this, people are skeptical of Ubisoft. They're skeptical. And so when Ubisoft says that they're going to do something like this, they tend to not believe it. They say, this is just corporate jargon. It's that marketing talk where it's like, oh yes, we appreciate the quality of our products and we want our customers to be happy, and further innovation. And it's got all those cue words. So people didn't believe this. But then slowly, as the year went on, Ubisoft executives gave little interviews here and there, and they were saying things that actually seemed like they were taking this to heart. Like, oh, well, that actually seems pretty good. I mean, I didn't actually believe you when you initially said it, but okay, if you're actually doing that, good job. That's great. And they keep doing it. First thing, Ubisoft CEO, a man by the name of Yves Guillemot, He actually gave an interview to GameSpot. I always say GameStop there. I guess it's just swapping the letters around, but I always say it. Maybe I'm dyslexic. I don't know. I think that's an excuse for lazy parents to claim that their kid is stupid. But what they said, he said, quote, we saw in the development of the next Assassin's Creed game that we had an opportunity to take it to another level. So we said we will take time, all the time that it takes to make the experience fantastic. It was feasible only because we have other games, other IPs to make up for the profits, essentially. And he said that there's a huge potential in this game to revolutionize the entire IP. So we said, let's make sure that we change our model so we have more time and that we can bring back a greater experience, end quote. Now, again, that sounds like the same sort of cue lines. Again, it's like, well, you're the CEO. You want to make your company sound good. I get that you took a year off. Whoop-de-freaking-do. But how do we know that you've actually made changes? Well, further, Ubisoft editorial vice president Tommy Francois, he said in statements to IGN that Ubisoft is now actively practicing the in-company policy that games, big AAA title games, need to have their alpha stage a year before release. Now, how does he define alpha? I can define alpha stage for anything else, but how does he specifically define alpha stage of development for Ubisoft? He says that it is the period in which developers are working on the essentially completed game, but not publicly showcasing it. So you think of any other type of game, this is when the game has been all but completed. Maybe you're finishing up and tweaking some cutscenes here and there. Maybe you're recording some lines over there, animation tweaking, smoothing things out. But the game is all there, and you're just polishing it, right? You're making it look all shiny and pretty. That's what the alpha stage is for Ubisoft supposed to essentially be. The game parts are there, we're putting it together, making it sync up, and then we're going to polish it, smooth it down. And in the past, they've actually showcased, and this is something he talked about in that IGN interview, they've actually showcased the game pre-alpha, which is something you would do for like a Steam Greenlight game. It's not something that you should be doing for a AAA title, but they did it because they were on this tight schedule. And he said, now we're not doing that. He said, this Tommy Francois, he said, quote, this is the goal we're going for. Alpha 1 year before. More quality, more polish. So if this means biting the bullet and not having an Assassin's Creed game or Far Cry in 2017 at all, F it. End quote. That is a much different attitude. They're willing to sacrifice sales and profits, at least immediate return, in order for a quality product. Now, I could just sit here and tell you, well, it's all just words. It's all just hearsay, and they're just saying this to get the consumers on their side. But they're actually practicing it. They didn't release a game in 2016. And according to this, they're open to not even releasing a Far Cry or an Assassin's Creed game, arguably their two biggest franchises. They're open to not releasing that at all in 2017 either. That is a huge shift in attitude from just 2 years ago. And I think it really shows something. I think they've taken this to heart. I think they've heard our pleas. And I think they're actually acting on it. And I've got to say, if this is what it appears to be, Ubisoft, you might just win me back. You might just win me back. Hey, did you like that? Well, that was just an extra of the full show that I do every single weekend. So if you haven't seen it yet, then you got to make sure to check it out. Links popping up everywhere in the description box as well. And subscribe if you haven't already to become a member of the Bowel Movement.